When you accidentally book an adult hotel during a business trip with your archenemy. The front desk has a huge sign saying, "No disposable items provided." Seriously, hotels don't even provide toiletries these days? I send him off to buy some, not expecting him to react like a spooked cat, ears turning red. In such a rush, huh? I thought he was just mocking the hotel's simplicity, so I didn't press. Don't wanna go? Fine, suit yourself. But he grabbed my hand, whispering faintly, didn't say I didn't want to. We gotta head to City B tomorrow for contract talks, and here I am burning the midnight oil revising plans. Damn, it feels like being a student again, cramming assignments in college, rushing papers in grad school. Now at 28, I'm still racing against deadlines at work. So here I am, 2 a.m., stretching and feeling a bit out of it. I check my phone, finding over 20 messages from him. Still up working on the plans? Stop pretending to be offline. If you're not racing deadlines, I'll do a handstand while washing my hair. Amanda, talk to me. Need help writing it? Go on, ask me. You didn't just drop dead, did you? File, full project plan B. Rubbing my forehead, ready to mock him for sticking his nose into things, his next message pops up. Wendy said we should go together tomorrow. Book a hotel. I laugh coldly. No wonder he's being so helpful, he's been waiting to snag my credit all along. Annoyed, but I find a hotel with a giant pink princess bed and send him the link. This one. After ages, David finally replies. You. I'm not staying there. He retracts one message and follows up, are we really staying there? Isn't it a bit too fast for us? I don't mean anything by it, just, are you sure? I'm not ready. I'm not saying no. Seeing David's weakness for pink, I grin and turn off my phone, ignoring him. Everyone knows David and I are sworn enemies. Few know we weren't always like this. As kids, his busy parents left him with me often. He was clingy, wouldn't even sleep without me. He once tossed aside my Barbie, donned a pink dress, trembling and pitiful, asking, "Can I be your doll? Please don't leave me, I'm scared of the dark." I caved, letting him sleep beside me every night. But in high school, I realized guys and girls shouldn't behave like we did. Panicked, I started dating someone else. We held hands, took walks, shared secret kisses behind classroom curtains. The thrill was consuming, but it soon faded to routine. Returning home from a late study session, I found my bedroom door ajar, dim lights casting shadows. There lay David on my bed. His deep, dark eyes, youthful in a pink dress, legs pale and straight. Innocently blinking, he asked, "Am I not prettier than him?" Blood rushed to my head, ears buzzing. I turned away, heart pounding. He'd grown taller. From behind, he hugged me, chin tucked against my neck, teasingly. His voice mixed impatience with coaxing, "Let's be like before, keep it a secret, huh?" I peeled his arms away, practically fleeing in panic. After that, David tossed every pink item, declaring he couldn't even look at the color without gagging. He stopped heeding my words, opting instead to pick fights with me. After our junior year practice exams, both families met for dinner. He deliberately unzipped his bag, spilling colorful love letters everywhere, pitifully blinking, "Sorry, sis, I messed up with your letters." Dead silence from our parents, I nearly lost my breath. I had to break up, draft apologies and vow never to date early to end the ordeal. I hated David so much I could bite nails. He leaned against the door, grinning, "Amanda, you hate me, huh?" After a restless sleep, we boarded the train, feeling dazed. David fidgeted like his seat had thorns. I pressed my throbbing temples. "In the last few hours, you checked yourself out 5 times, messed with your hair 6 times, and glanced at me 7 or 8 times. What's up, huh? Can't wait to steal my thunder? Wendy can give you credit for the project, I won't mind. Quiet down, it's noisy." David paled, hesitating before speaking slowly. "I thought you didn't dislike me that much." I held up a finger, shaking it. Nope. Of all people I dislike, you're number one. David lifted his face, eyebrows raised, smug. I like being first. Ignoring him, I succumbed to exhaustion, dozing off. Didn't notice the hint of loneliness setting in his eyes, or hear his soft chant consoling himself. You got this, David. It's okay. Before this gig, I knew the client was hard to please. Meeting them confirmed they were a total nightmare. Damn it, smiling through it took serious guts. David had to appear cringing yet oddly charming to placate them. By the time we left, darkness had fallen with rain pouring down. David, grinning, held the only umbrella, teasing, "You want under?" "Beg me." I pressed my throbbing temples, anger bubbling. He's got such a mouth on him. I removed my shoes, kicked the back of his knee, and leaped onto his back, laughing. "No need, I can't let my shoes get wet." David stood firm and didn't even flinch when I lunged at him. His thick eyelashes fluttered a bit as he gently held me. I opened the navigation and pointed him in the right direction. "Hurry up to the hotel, I'm freezing." David was silent the whole way, but from his ear tips to his neck, he was blushing. I was a bit confused and touched his face. "Do you have a fever?" David tensed up, hesitantly answering. I moved closer, trying to embrace his upper body. "Then I'll hold you, walk faster." David was so unsteady on his feet, he almost tripped. The hotel seemed a bit odd at first glance but looked okay. It turned out there was no front desk, and we had to do self-check-in. While using the machine to check in, I realized I'd lost my ID. I searched multiple times but couldn't find it. Now we could only get one room. When I was about to hit confirm, David grabbed my hand. He turned away awkwardly, his tone serious. "Do you want to reconsider?" I found it strange. Was this even a question? "You have a fever, can't you hold on?" David seemed choked, his face turning beet red. He looked away and stammered. "I'm not burning up. I'm not burning up." A little confused, I touched his forehead. It felt cool, and seemed he was fine. Even better. I went ahead and pressed confirm. The key popped out of the machine. "Let's go, don't waste time." The chilling rain seeped through my clothes, down to my bones. All I wanted was a hot shower. David followed quietly. Suddenly, I stopped on the stairs. "Wait a second, there's a sign here. They don't provide disposable items. Could you go buy some stuff? This hotel is so cheap, they don't even have basic toiletries. I'll definitely write a bad review." David looked up at me, like he was about to fall apart. "So, this has nothing to do with who we are? Are we just rushing into this?" I thought he was acting weird. "What else can we do? What are we supposed to use tonight?" "No way, I'm skipping brushing my teeth morning and night." David's ears turned red, helplessly covering his face. After a long pause, he finally gritted his teeth and asked, "Are you that eager?" "Of course I am, I'm freezing to death." I met his gaze head on. He seemed uncomfortable, his face ridiculously red. His arm veins bulged from gripping the rail. Maybe I shouldn't push him so hard. I sighed, and my conscience kicked in for once. "If you don't want to, forget it. I have a couple of mouth spray packets, we'll make do tonight." I turned to press the elevator button. David grabbed me quickly, speaking in a hurried tone. "I want to." He looked at me again, repeating himself, his voice barely audible. "I've always wanted to." Whenever he let me mess with him, I felt guilty, like I was taking advantage of someone too nice. My conscience chimed in again, and I tried to reassure him. "It's fine, I don't mind not using them." David stumbled, almost tripping on flat ground. "I'll get them right away." He bolted faster than a dog. "Okay. Here I come, hot shower." When I finished my long-awaited shower, I found a disposable toothbrush set on the sink. Opening the door, I saw David standing outside obediently. His black hair hung down, soaked by the rain, and his puppy dog eyes looked at me innocently. For once, I felt a bit guilty. Ahem, you should go shower. David's white shirt was drenched, hinting at his toned abs and waistline. He looked at me, undoing his tie and watch. As his nimble fingers unbuttoned his shirt, I finally realized what was happening. I panicked and rolled his tie into a ball, tossing it at him. Get inside to take that off, you perv. He shrugged. The next second, his lightly scented shirt landed over my head. Blinded, I instinctively reached out, somehow managing to touch his abs with one hand and his chest with the other. Silence. I was about to apologize when he unexpectedly looked apologetic. Sorry, I shouldn't have hesitated. What the heck are you talking about? I kicked him on reflex. David caught my left leg, pinning it against his waist. He gave me a deep look. Let's not rush. Until the pattering water dripped in the bathroom, I still wanted to ask if he was crazy. Ever since we entered the hotel, he'd been acting weird. We really needed to visit a temple and ward off evil spirits or something. In boredom, I checked out the room's decor. The colors were crazy bold and avant-garde, pink, purple, all over the place, along with ugly drapes and a dim light hanging overhead. The bold images on the wall featured women in bikinis. Wait, why did it all seem kind of familiar? Just as I was about to make a connection, painful cries from a woman next door cut through, and the room lights went out. Shoot. This hotel loses power, too? Complaint incoming. Gonna file it tomorrow. I grabbed my phone, turning on the flashlight, and knocked on the bathroom door. David, you good? David grunted. I'm fine, just the bubbles haven't rinsed off yet. Suddenly, I remembered he was afraid of the dark as a kid, so I asked carefully. Don't be scared, I'm here outside. David paused, his voice trembled slightly. I can't see anything. I'm really afraid of the dark. Can you come and be with me? His voice came from near the door, shattered and fragile, like a siren's call. Memories of damp nights from my younger days flashed in my mind, enticing. Taking a deep breath, I pushed the door open and went inside. The bathroom was warm, and I aimed the light at the floor, carefully removing my shirt. David squatted on the floor, holding my leg. Sis, can you help rinse me off? I can't move. The scent of orange blossoms filled the air, reminding me of the one I used back in high school. Smells are like anchors to memories, and the darkness was messing with my mind. It felt like I was right back on the night when we fell apart. I held the shower head, my fingers uncontrollably pressing on his shoulder. Suddenly, he stood up, firmly covering my hand with his and moving it downward. Thud. The lights came back on. The incandescent bulb exposed everything. I was so startled I nearly toppled backward. David reacted quickly, wrapping his arms around my waist, pulling me into his chest. He works out regularly, and he's truly in great shape. I instinctively squeezed his abs. David lifted my chin, and his heated kisses followed one after another. After that intense cooking session, I didn't sleep well. It sounded like someone was being beaten next door. That familiar, painful woman's voice cried half the night. The tone didn't sound purely painful, though. Frankly, it made me a bit uneasy. I nudged David. Did you hear all that noise next door? He looked slightly surprised for a second, but then he chuckled. He kissed my cheek, his voice husky and tempting. You're so forward, sis. No, I mean business. Hey, hey. Why did I get pushed down again? Seriously. The next day, I completely missed my train. David sat by the window, quietly waiting for me. My brain was all foggy, and my hands were sweaty from gripping the blankets. Is it too late to play dead? Damn, how did I get so caught up in this? David had his eyes lowered. He was wearing the shirt I'd torn, his neck covered in red marks from my kisses, and his abs scratched all over. He was the definition of intense battlefield. I buried my toes under the blankets, avoiding his gaze instinctively. David, however, laughed softly, his lowered eyes giving him a vulnerable look. Isn't this the part where you slide $200 under the table and say it was just an accident? It's fine, I'm not expensive. $10 or even $1 would work. I was overwhelmed, ridden with guilt. Stop, your main task now is to uninstall that crappy novel app. His eyes lit up with a mix of anxious hope. So, can I still go back with you? Then, he chuckled self-deprecatingly. But you probably just want to be alone, huh? It's fine, don't worry about me. I can manage. I felt a headache coming on. What kind of pity play is this? I fumbled into my clothes under the covers and then it hit me. My ID card was missing. David paused, about to hand me a bottle of water, and accidentally knocked over his bag. Papers, keys, and my ID card fell everywhere. I picked it up, looking at him in surprise. Why is this in your bag? David shrugged. Who knows? Maybe it fell in there by accident. I just nodded, not giving it much thought. When I got back, I took 2 days off. My legs were jelly. Returning to the office, everyone was looking at me weirdly, curious, shocked, even a bit sympathetic. No way, did David spread rumors about this? Back in my office, even my assistant was cautious. A bad feeling crept over me. I spun in my chair until Wendy's assistant knocked, asking me to drop by. The VP's office. Wendy had been transferred from HQ, a successful middle-aged woman with a great family. She had the vibe of someone doing really well. She started with small talk before getting to the point. You worked well with David on that project. For the department head position, I've thought it over. Personally, I believe David is more suited for the role. It sounded like a sentence. My mind went blank, like it was hit with a hammer. I struggled to stay calm, wanting to defend myself. Wendy, I brought this project over 6 months ago, and I've been the one handling it. She stopped me, standing up and taking my hand warmly. I understand, I really do. But you're 28, why push yourself so hard? You should find a good husband and be happy. David, on the other hand, needs more growth. So it wasn't about a scandal, but about getting sidelined after 2 years of hard work for some empty reason. Wendy's expression told me to stop arguing. I held back my anger, forcing a smile. Got it. Walking out, tears finally fell down my face. So embarrassing. Colleagues just watched, not daring to approach, their glances felt like needles. I slammed my office door, letting the frustration out by throwing my files. David followed in, looking panicked. Amanda, I didn't know Wendy would credit me for that project or consider me for the head position. I slapped his hand away, coldly wiping my tears. Oh really? Didn't you have a plan B ready for the project? Why pretend now? David stiffened, turning pale. I didn't do it to take credit. I picked up my ID, my voice icy. The ID card, was that a mistake too? Using your body to hold me back for 2 days, isn't that a bit much? David's hands clenched, he looked at me with disbelief and pain, shaking his head. It's not like what you think. I tossed my ID on the table, exhaling deeply, trying to swallow the hurt. I know you want to outdo me in everything. You even scored 30 points higher on the SAT and ended up at the same school. You joined my clubs, got hired at my company. I admit it, I'm a failure. You won. Happy now? David grabbed my hand tightly, his body shaking. Don't do this, Amanda. Please. I pried his hand off, striving to keep calm. David, don't talk to me anymore. I'm tired of you. He got all riled up, slammed his hands on the table, trapping me between him and it. I told you, it's not like that. Everything I did wasn't for any department head. I honestly don't care. His anger fired up mine. So what? You're proud of yourself for stepping on me and acting like I'm nothing? Then what do you want? David's eyes turned red, and he trembled, looking at me, but stayed silent. My heart tightened. I pushed him aside, avoiding eye contact. Just go. I don't want people laughing at me for this scene. David really started avoiding me after that. In the break room, he'd see me and just press his lips together, his eyes looking all sad. Our colleagues, being thoughtful, scheduled our meetings separately. That outburst was stupid, and now this whole thing is just stressing me out. I skipped out of work early and met up with my girl Lily for drinks. I unloaded all my frustrations on her. Did I wrong him? Was I at fault? Lily furrowed her brow and let out a little hiss. Here's my question: pink princess bed, weird pink-purple curtains, those posters, screaming in the middle of the night, disposable stuff. Did you take him to a legit hotel? It was like a cold shower hit me. I froze, then nervously checked my booking. A freaking love hotel. I was blinded by it on the screen. Scenes from that night flashed in my mind, David's awkwardness, his red face. I joked he had a fever. He knew the whole time. My toes are practically digging a hole in shame. Lily looked at me like I was an idiot. He was trying so hard, scared of the dark, calling you sis, basically throwing himself at you. Plus, you were kinda harsh. I let out an exasperated groan, rubbing my hair in frustration. What now? But he's no saint either, he's been getting on my nerves forever. Lily shrugged. Who knows? I went home all dazed and then dreamt about David's puppy dog eyes all night. I'm an idiot. Next day, I put on some killer makeup and rushed to the office. The assistant there gave me a smug smile and whispered, David quit. And there I was, feeling all sorts of things. So, I dropped my bag and went to his office. David had his things packed up. A bunch of folks around him, smiling and chatting politely. When he saw me, his grip on the box tightened, and his eyes dropped. Everyone gave us space, probably seeing as I'd be the new boss with him gone. The door shut, and David mumbled. You have something to say? I don't want to hear it. I spun around in his big chair, his desk looking empty. Even if you resign, I won't be satisfied. David looked up quickly, nearly breaking the pen he held. This punk is strong, no wonder my body was aching for days. With my elbows on the table, I leaned on my hands. Unless you tell me the last thing we fought about. Why'd you do it all? After a pause, David let out a soft laugh. He leaned over the chair with both arms, half embracing me. Because I like you, everything was for you. I blinked, stunned by his honesty. He then knelt slowly. You know that, right? Letting out a slight scoff, his eyes filled with self-ridicule. Amanda, I'm tired of pretending. I never wanted to fight with you or jump through hoops for your attention. But it's not enough for me just to do that. Fear crept in at his impending words, and I instinctively pressed my hand to his mouth. He nuzzled into it, speaking in a calm tone. I want to be yours. Wear a dress for you. His words transported me to that night years ago. He kissed my fingers, and I was completely at his mercy. You liked it, right? When I wore that dress, your eyes were all over me. You've gone through relationship after relationship, never committing, not even glancing my way. Amanda, you're not being honest. You're scared. His words stole my breath, and my heart pounded, embarrassment washing over me. David, like a prisoner delivering his final words, rested quietly on my knee. Silence heavy in the air. Knock, knock, knock. An agitated banging at the door, and I reflexively kicked David under the desk. Wendy barged in, her irritation and disdain barely checked. Where's David? Under the desk, David pulled up my skirt, leaving light kisses on my calves. Ugh. Not now. I waved a hand at him under the table. David bit my finger. Ah. I couldn't stifle a yelp. Wendy eyed me suspiciously. I forced a strained smile. He stepped out. Damn. David's taking my shoe off. His hands large and warm, heat pooling from my foot to the rest of me. Wendy suppressed her rage, speaking evenly. I'm giving you advice as an elder. You're a grown woman now, you should focus on getting married and having kids. What's the point of being so tough? I don't care how you pushed David away, get him back immediately. I made a weird face and shivered. I was trying to gracefully escape, but David held my ankle tight, not letting me move. His dark eyes were like ink that wouldn't dissolve. Wendy was so mad she was shaking, took 2 steps forward. Can you be respectful and listen to what I'm saying? I waved my hands and shouted. Don't come any closer. You have BO. Wendy looked at me in disbelief, just frozen there, her face turning red, then green, then purple. I didn't have time to argue with her because David was about to get a foot right in the face from me. Your company's workplace culture for women is astonishing. Plus, I can't take a fake lovey-dovey old lady as my boss anymore. In short, I'm done with this place. Wendy pointed at me with a trembling finger for a while, then finally stormed out. I sighed, feeling the sweat pour down my back. David laughed quietly. I really wanted to kick him in the face, scared he might enjoy it too much though. After quitting, I reconnected with contacts and resources, reaching out to old clients. Luckily, over the past couple of years, David and I had been healthy rivals, so most of our client resources didn't overlap. Combining them, I felt I had the confidence to start a new company. I was on the couch, tapping away at the computer, and David squeezed himself into my arms. Physical closeness didn't bridge the emotional gap from all these years. I ruffled his hair, like I was petting a dog. As we enjoyed some peace, his phone started buzzing non-stop. David sighed and put it on speaker. Hello? It was Wendy. Wendy giggled a little. Why do you answer my calls so slowly, huh? David's face crumpled like a bitter melon. I was a complete elderly with an old phone. Wendy didn't wait for him to reply and continued in her sweet, soft voice. David, free to come over for dinner tonight? We've kept the manager position open for you. Come back anytime. I feel uneasy if I don't see you for a day. I got goosebumps all over. David shivered for a while, then found his voice again. No thanks, ma'am. We exchanged looks, and David broke the silence. Even if you doubt my character, don't doubt my taste. Fair enough. We didn't bother acknowledging this detour. Starting a new company is stressful. Every day I'm so exhausted I just want to crash, no energy left even to fight with David. But somehow he handles everything with ease, even has time to play the house husband. Amanda, tonight we have secret recipe barbecue pork, garlic butter steamed lobster, and soup-covered baby Chinese cabbage. My eyes lit up, I dashed to the kitchen and hugged his waist, sniffing around. How did you know I wanted Cantonese cuisine? Been craving it so much. He smiled and kissed me on the cheek. As long as you like it. David seemed so soft, like he had put away all his spikes. I almost thought his feelings for me had finally become normal. A regular afternoon. While seeking sponsorships, a client introduced a partner. I was bored waiting in the restaurant, turned out it was an old colleague. I remembered him, his name was John. Not really competent, kind of scattered. Used to be a fringe guy in David's group. We exchanged a few pleasantries, then he started joking about himself. After you both quit, I ended up taking the manager spot, quite the twist of fate, huh? I smiled but didn't comment, seemed like the old company was tanking. He didn't mind, seemed more interested in what I was up to now. Heard you're starting something new with David. The market's tough right now, no future in that. I'm holding a big project, how about you join as my assistant? I didn't even get a word out when David suddenly appeared. Looking annoyed, he flipped through the proposal on the table. This? With this vague market research and your absolutely genius understanding of internal product dynamics, if your project turns a profit, it's a miracle. Best case, you lose a small fortune. John was so mad his face turned purple, staring blankly without words. David pulled me up and held me, grabbing my bag with his other hand. Why bother talking to him? Let's go. As we walked, David stayed silent until we passed a dark alley, where he pushed me against the wall and kissed me hard. I struggled to breathe, turned my head slightly, but he forcefully turned my face back. He smirked, but there was no laughter in his eyes. You smiled so beautifully while talking to John, seemed happier than with me. I was amused and annoyed. Where was this jealous fit coming from? Just business clients, pigs can have their uses too. He held my hand tightly, almost mockingly. Really? What about the other clients? Eating together, walking together, cutting your steak and protecting you on the street. Only thing left is holding hands. I sensed something wasn't right and pushed his face away. You've been stalking me? No wonder some clients' attitudes have been hot and cold lately. Almost made me laugh angrily. Did you approach someone else too? Aren't you a bit old for this immature nonsense? David avoided the topic. I have plenty of resources too. I could give you all I negotiate. I rolled my eyes at him, pushing him and walking away. Why hadn't I noticed how arrogant this guy was before? I sat in the garden sulking, feeding quite a few big mosquitoes. Felt like we had a fight and going back now would be awkward. My stomach inconveniently growled several times. While I was still hesitating, an older lady walking by looked at me several times before speaking up. Oh, isn't that Amanda? What are you doing here? I took a while to recognize her as David's high school nanny. She seemed puzzled. Why are you here alone? Did you and David have a fight? Embarrassed, I nodded. She let out a sudden sigh, sat next to me, and hesitated for a long time before sharing an old story. That's when I found out what really happened that summer night when he was 18. After I bolted in a panic, David, with a blank expression, took off the dress and locked himself in the bathroom, chain smoking an entire pack. He's sensitive to smoke, normally getting nauseous from the smell. But that day, he tortured himself by lighting up one cigarette after another. He hugged the toilet, throwing up until he was dry heaving. Then, he soaked himself in cold water and cut open his arm, once, twice, 3 times. Lack of oxygen and blood loss almost killed him. Until the housekeeper noticed something was off and quickly saved him. Lying in bed, David calmly wiped the tears off his face. Don't tell anyone. I'll triple your salary. Deep into the night, in the dead silence, he called his mom. But the career-driven woman, working far away in the US, didn't have time to listen. I'm busy. If you need money, contact my assistant. David lay in bed, braving that seemingly endless night on his own. The next day, he cut up all his dresses and threw away everything pink. He started to loathe himself, denying who he was. But thankfully, he was smart. He forced himself to suppress all twisted emotions and tried hard to be the kind of excellent and sociable person society valued. Extremely arrogant, yet deeply insecure at the same time. I felt a chill from head to toe, running straight home without looking back. David was startled by my sudden return, instinctively clutching a tiny bottle in his hands. I held back my anger and snatched it away. What's this? David paused, trying to take the bottle back, looking uneasy. Vitamins. I almost laughed in disbelief. Anyone ever told you, your lying game is weak? You stutter like a bad internet connection before you lie. He curled up, holding himself with his head buried in his knees. I sighed, lifting his face in my hands. Why didn't you tell me you're on antidepressants? How long did you plan to hide it if I hadn't come back suddenly? David slowly tightened his grip on the bottle, eyes downcast. What's the point of telling you? There's too much in your life that's more important than me. I'll never be your top priority. You even pick fights with me. He sounded so aggrieved, pitifully pointing out my faults. My heart just melted. So what should I do? Report my schedule to you every day? His eyes lit up for a moment, but he turned his head away pitifully again. You're just sweet talking me. I was ready to raise both hands in surrender. How could I dare to sweet talk you? I'll take you along for work trips in the future so you won't overthink. David laughed, his gorgeous face turning my world upside down. Then you have to say you like me every day. Kiss me daily, too. And tame me in bed at night. I covered my face, feeling my ears burn with embarrassment. David hugged me close, his voice laced with jealousy as if remembering something. And you must do everything you did with your ex-boyfriend with me, too. When your boyfriend is too clingy, what do? You spoil him. A few months later, our company gradually found its footing and moved toward going public. Nearly everyone from the team I led at my old job sent me a resume through WeChat. When asked, I found out why. John's girlfriend flipped out at the company's annual party. She played a bedroom scene of John and Wendy for all the big bosses to see. All 500 people saw it live and online. It went viral on social platforms that day. Turns out, John's project went way over budget, losing $1.5 million. Heard Wendy's husband had a heart attack on the spot and couldn't even get his heart meds out in time. I can't even picture that scene. What a shame I wasn't there. The main headquarters stock took a nosedive, and the branch office was shut down directly. I quickly snapped up a few smart people and led the charge on social platforms, stirring things up. Thanks for the invite, just quit my job. Years with no promotion because they said women my age should just exit the market and find a man to marry. My words sent ripples, with the whole thread filled with workplace venting. This woman notoriously flirts with the guys, dead serious one minute and critiquing young women's outfits the next. During office hours, almost glued to male colleagues. Always claiming our team's achievements as her boyfriends, makes me sick. I swear, this shitty company was driving me to depression. I lay on David's lap, scrolling through social platforms, laughing so hard. I casually asked him a question. By the way, where did you get the money to help push our company to go public this fast? David paused. I playfully interrupted, no lying. He pursed his lips, looking a bit guilty. My mom, she made some money abroad, sent me $20 million. I sat up instantly. You said how much? He blinked, sheepishly adding. $20 million, in USD. Whoa, little prince here. I took a deep breath. Let me see that bank account. David picked up a slinky black lace dress, whispering seductively in my ear. I'll wear this and bring it to you, how does that sound? I blushed hard. The end. Bonus 1, if line. I went back to that night after the late-night class. The night was lonely, and the room was open to me, as if David had mustered the courage to tear himself open. He knew I was a coward. But what was he thinking then? I walked in. He lay on the bed, a perfect smile on his face. Sis, why are you dating? Don't you like playing with me anymore? He was pure and straightforward but with a fragility in his eyes, like he'd break at the slightest touch. Yet back then, I was too blinded to notice any of this. David was more like a sensitive, proud cat, cautiously exposing his belly, stretching out his paw pads. I closed the door and sat next to him. You look really pretty in pink. David froze for a moment, his ears turning a bit red, looking a little flustered. He tugged at the hem of his skirt, murmuring softly. Do you like it? I slid my fingers into his palm, forcing open his hand clenched in nervousness, and intertwined our fingers. I do. He stared at me blankly, his breathing all over the place. His mind went blank for several seconds, as if he never expected this to happen. I gently shook his hand. I'm breaking up right now, and from now on, I'll only like you. Okay? David suddenly turned pale, shaking his head vigorously, looking at me helplessly. I slowly let go, pursed my lips. You don't really like me. You just like the idea of it. David quickly grabbed me again, speaking in a hurried voice. I do like you. His voice softened again, avoiding my gaze. I like you. I just didn't expect. I finished his sentence. You didn't expect I'd respond to you. You keep loathing yourself, hoping I'd loathe you too, to validate your thoughts and get a thrill out of self-torture. Right? You're a bit of a weirdo, huh? David trembled as if I hit a nerve, instinctively wanting to run away. I grabbed his wrist. David was shocked and unsure of what to do, so he clung to the bed sheets and asked, "What are you doing?" I tied my hair back with an elastic band, gave his waist a pinch. "Weren't you teasing me?" "I'm taking the bait." David relaxed under my control. He was both eager and scared, nervous enough to sweat on his nose. Turning self-harm into mutual harm was the best way to vent. I knew his sweet spots well. Handling him was a piece of cake. Half an hour later. He was crying, burying his face in my neck, his voice raspy. More. Bonus Chapter 2, David. Amanda got it wrong. He's the real sneaky one. From the start, he knew Amanda just picked a pink room to mess with him. But for his own selfish reasons, he didn't tell Amanda it was a love hotel. He's got to be in City B tomorrow for contract negotiations, staying up late tonight to revise the plan. Amanda's actually pretty clueless. She only caught on to some of his little schemes. She had no idea the nanny was acting on his orders. But he didn't outright lie. He just wanted her to feel sorry for him. Truth is, those pills were nothing but vitamins. He could handle her dislike, her disdain, even an eye roll. But her ignoring him? That he couldn't take. He loved when she worried about him, cared for him, held him when she was at her wit's end. Now that they're together, being a little sneaky spices up their relationship. So what's the harm?